Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comic Class, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Nick Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 8, Threats and Menaces. And yeah, this was a pretty good volume, guys, and if you haven't already, go check out the previous 7 volumes. I have a video on each one in a playlist that will be at the end of this video, so go check that out when you're done with this one. Or if you haven't read them before, go watch those videos before you watch this one. But without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the story. Let's go. So the story pretty much starts off with Spider-Man taking on the crime of New York City and also taking on the monsters and criminals. And yeah, so Spider-Man is basically just doing his thing, and we get to see that while this is happening, J. Jonah Jameson is actually talking to Nora Winters and basically is, taking this job offer that we saw him take in the last volume, where he's kind of like doing a podcast now. And yeah, he's kind of like just learning how things are done in a modern generation without the newspaper and doing more of a podcast type news program. So that's really cool, and we get to see what's happening with other characters. Now, Spider-Man is taking on, like I said, the criminals of New York City, small-time criminals, and monsters. And it's just a really cool thing to see Spider-Man just doing regular crime fighting and not always fighting these super-powered villains all the time. It was really cool, and we get to see that Spider-Man's actually using the Claritin to basically predict, or at least know, where these crimes are going to be taking place, so he gets there before there can be any casualties or maximum damage, basically. And it's just a really cool intro scene to this volume, because we get to see Spider-Man do his day-to-day routine and how it's getting better with the use of the Claritin, and how it's improving his social life as well, because later on we get to see that Spider-Man's actually able to have some time with Mary Jane and FaceTiming her and just enjoying the show, watching the show together, which is really cool to see little moments like this that make the characters feel more human. Now, while this all happened, basically Kindred, we're seeing him again, and basically he's actually using his powers, or he's using some type of power to resurrect somebody, and this person gets revealed to be the Sin Eater. And yeah, the Sin Eater is actually a bit Spider-Man character that I've really never read a story arc about, but I do know that he was a big deal in the original Spider-Man comics, probably from like 40 or 50 years ago. Yeah, so like the Sin Eater's, an amazing character that I personally have not been introduced to, so I'm looking forward to his story arc that's gonna come after this volume. And yeah, so basically Kindred has revived him. Now we get to see that Nora Winters basically is still trying to teach J. Jonah Jameson, how to work this type of business. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, while they're talking and having their discussion, it's shown on a TV screen that Spider-Man looks to be stealing something from a bank. And this has Nora tell Jameson that he should try to do a headline for them that would get Spider-Man to kind of like slander him. But J. Jonah Jameson says that he's not going to be doing that those days are before him. And basically he goes and he tries to find out what exactly is happening with Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man basically did not steal a bank, and he's talking to Teresa, basically explaining the situation. And this is where we get to see that these type of criminals, these goons, are attacking Spider-Man. Now, while this is happening, we get to see that the Foreigner and Silver Sable make their appearance in the story yet again. And it's shown that Silver Sable is on her way to making a full recovery, but she's gonna have to take some time to get there. So the Foreigner tells her that he'll be right back, and the Foreigner actually heads to this place called the Palace, basically. And the Palace is run by Chance. Now, Chance is a villain that basically he uses like some type of weaponry, like it looks like some type of tech, but basically he's running this place where you place bets on heroes and the criminals and see who's gonna win and stuff like that, just a place to bet on. And this is where Chance tries to get the Foreigner to take a bet on Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man gets saved by J. Jonah Jameson when the Chance basically, uses drones to try to take on Spider-Man as well as goons. And Spider-Man basically has to fight them off. We get this cool action scene with a ton of different panels with Chance basically, enjoying what he was actually doing in these bets. And him and the foreigner have a bet, and the chance wins with the foreigner losing out. So we get to see that Spider-Man is doing a podcast with J. Jonah Jameson, and it's looking out to be a hit. And yeah, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. So the foreigner basically tells Chance that he cheated, and Chance basically says that he wants the foreigner to do more bets with him. So the foreigner comes up with this awesome plan to, outsmart Chance, in that he tells the entire assembly of, people gambling that Chance has agreed to try to take a web shooter off of Spider-Man, and that if he does achieve this, that the foreigner will pay all of the gambler's debts for tonight, which includes a lot of supervillains, as we can see in the background of this panel. So Chance basically is forced to go do this, and it's really cool. So we get to see that Spider-Man and J. Jonah Jameson are doing the podcast, and this is where Chance basically leaves the foreigner, with the foreigner giving Chance the location of where Spider-Man and Jonah are to go get the web shooter. And yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a good time for him. So basically, J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man are kind of having an out for each other after they relive some of their past memories. And Chance makes an appearance and blows up some of the portion of the building to make his appearance. And yeah, it's a pretty cool panel when he arrives. Now, Chance wastes no time in trying to waste J. Jonah Jameson and the podcast crew, with Spider-Man having to intervene and stopping Chance. Now, Chance and Spider-Man basically have a fight hand to hand, with weaponry not really helping Chance that much. Now, Chance basically tells Spider-Man that he wants to lose, that way the foreigner doesn't win his bet. But Spider-Man basically punches Chance, basically kind of like helping him out. But this is where it's revealed that the foreigner already knew that Chance was going to get out of this. So he sent the jack-o'-lanterns that we saw in the last volume to attack Spider-Man and get one of the web shooters and hand it to Chance, confirming victory for the foreigner's bet. And yeah, it's pretty funny. Just Chance says that he can give it back and gets sent away with the jack-o'-lanterns, basically taking him back to the foreigner and his the palace, basically. So Spider-Man and Jonah basically have a laugh, and they continue their podcast. So Spider-Man was going to go after them, but decided to keep his responsibility after Jonah pointed out that he was going to run away again. So Spider-Man, for once, actually stays with his promise, and he puts the responsibility of himself with J. Jonah Jameson, and they continue their podcast, and it gets huge ratings. Now, Chance basically arrives back to where the foreigner and the palace is, and he says that he hates everybody. But the foreigner basically says that him and Chance are going to form a partnership now, that he sees great potential in Chance and what this place can do. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, Peter basically arrives back in his apartment, where Robbie Robinson basically tells him that his ex-girlfriend is actually there. And yeah, so Peter looks like he gets offered a job by Nora, basically telling him that he wants him to interview Spider-Man, which we know is impossible. So that looks like it's going to be a funny little story plot point that we'll see probably in the next volume. But we'll see. So after this, we get to see that there's a dude that is betting in the palace that is just on a row. As they say, it's an unbelievable another win. That's 8 in a row. And this is where we're revealed to Jamie, and that he's calling himself the Clairvoyant, and basically is using the Clairvoyant to basically predict all these bet outcomes. And yeah, so it looks like Jamie is not a good dude. He's not using the Clairvoyant for good purposes. So we'll see what Jamie becomes, if he becomes a supervillain or not. We'll see. So Nora basically is on the phone while she's heading back home, and it's revealed that she is in cahoots with the Chameleon, basically telling her that she better, get the stuff that she needs to get done, or there will be consequences. So this leads us to the last part of this volume, where we're introduced to Spider-Man and the Boomerang working together, basically fighting off these vermin, and we're revealed to the Lifeline tablet, I think is what it's called. Basically, it's this source of this relic that basically can give someone like unlimited power. And Boomerang, and it has to protect it. Basically, he was given the tablet basically to protect. So from this old dude that's like missed it. So yeah, so Boomerang basically tells Spider-Man we have to do whatever we can to basically protect this thing. So Spider-Man and these vermin and Boomerang are fighting each other, and this is where Cog makes his appearance. Now, Cog is an old Spider-Man villain, and it's shown in flashback in here when he was actually defeated in the last scene by Spider-Man. But yeah, so God basically takes on Boomerang and Spider-Man, trying to protect his piece of the tablet. And yeah, so we get a flashback with God and his relationship with this alien boy and what exactly their life entailed. And basically it's revealed that the boy actually died in battle when God was sent away, and came back and saw him dead basically. Now God was sent back to Earth basically with a piece of the tablet, or maybe all the tablet, to basically protect it no matter what, and make sure it doesn't fall in the wrong hands, because that's what happened in their alien planet. So God basically is trying to stop Spider-Man and Boomerang from getting it. Now Boomerang takes the piece of the tablet that he has, basically zooms up into the city and leaves the sewers. And this is a bad idea, as Spider-Man says, this leads God right into the city. So Spider-Man has to kind of like try to protect all these different civilians and people. And it's a pretty cool, saving scene, rescue scene. And yeah, so God gets attacked by the Kingpin and his men, the military as well. And Spider-Man basically webs, Kingpin's mouth, basically tells him that he appreciates the offer, but he thinks he got this. And yeah, so he takes out some of the helicopter planes, makes sure he doesn't kill anybody, of course. He's Spider-Man, he's a hero. And he comes up with this idea because apparently, I think they said Hank Pym basically put some particles in God to make it to where he can actually miniaturize himself. So he basically uses a boomerang to, with Boomerang, basically tells him, shoot one of your boomerangs into one of these trailers, and this basically will make God force himself to go small to capture it. And this plan actually works. And what happens basically is that Spider-Man and Boomerang, they realize that God can't just be out in the open by himself, so they decide to adopt him and make him part of their household. So it looks like God's gonna be part of the main cast from now on. Now Jamie actually helped Spider-Man / Peter Parker in creating a prohibitor collar, basically that way the Pym particles can't size him up again. And yeah, so he has a collar that basically stops him. So he has like a pet collar that stops him from actually going giant again, which is really cool. And it looks like Jamie again is shown that he's a very smart dude. So I wonder if he really is going to become a villain. So at the end of the story, basically it's shown that, God had this boy that he loved, and basically he died. He was hoping to have that again someday, and it looks like he has found that with Peter Parker. And that's how Volume 7, Threats and Menaces ends. So yeah, guys, so Volume 7 of Ned Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man Threats and Menaces was pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed the whole subplot of the palace and Chance and the Foreigner making these bets. I think that's a really cool story arc idea. And I really wish it would have been that the entire volume, instead of actually, going to the whole God stuff. But I understand that the God stuff was probably filler so that Ned Spencer could get ready for the Sins Rising arc, which is volume 9. So I can understand it. So I'm not hating on it. I just wish that the Chance stuff would have been the entire volume. I really love that part. But yeah, guys, overall, it's a good volume. I do recommend it. As always, link will be in the description down below to go buy it legally on Comixology. And yeah, it's a good volume, guys. It's not the best volume in the series, but it's definitely not the worst. It's a good volume. So that's going to be all, guys. Until next video, which will be Volume 9, Sins Rising, which is going to be awesome. Just as we saw in this story, the Sin Eater actually got revived by Kindred. It's going to be an amazing story. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I can't wait to read it and then bring it to you guys. That's going to be all, guys. Until next video, God bless you, and until the next lesson, keep on reading.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity.